I stood alone in my empty apartment on a cold November night in Portland, staring at the engagement ring I had bought 18 months ago. It sat in my desk drawer now, a reminder of everything I had lost. 3 weeks ago, my life had fallen apart. Diane, the woman I had loved for 4 years, was gone. My family, my own flesh and blood, had turned their backs on me. My father, my mother, my 2 brothers, they all refused to speak to me. And the worst part, I did not even know what I had done wrong. Before we go any further, I would love to know where you are watching this from. Drop your location in the comments below. And if you have ever been wrongly accused of something you did not do, hit that like button and subscribe, because what comes next will show you exactly how I fought back against the lies that nearly destroyed me. Trust me, you will want to see how this ends. My name is Cedric. I am 32 years old, and I work as a graphic designer for an advertising agency here in Portland. 4 years ago, I met Diane at a networking event downtown. She was 30, worked as a marketing coordinator, and had this incredible smile that lit up the entire room. I remember our first date like it was yesterday. We went to this small coffee shop on Broadway Street. I was so nervous that I knocked over my latte and spilled it all over my shirt. Instead of being embarrassed for me, Diane just laughed. Not in a mean way, but in this genuine, warm way that made me feel like everything was going to be okay. Our relationship grew naturally over the years. We took trips to Vancouver together, spent our weekends cooking new recipes we found online, and had this tradition of watching old movies every Friday night. She loved classic films from the 1950s, and I pretended to enjoy them just to see her happy. Last spring, I proposed to her at the Japanese garden. It was during cherry blossom season, and the pink petals were falling all around us. She cried when I got down on one knee. She said yes. We started planning our wedding for September of this year. Everything felt perfect. Everything felt right. But 2 months ago in September, things started to change. Diane became distant. She was always on her phone texting someone, and whenever I walked into the room, she would quickly turn her screen off. When I asked her about it, she said she was stressed about a big project at work. I believed her. Why would not I? We had been together for 4 years. Trust was the foundation of everything we had built. Then one Thursday evening, I came home early from work. I had finished a project ahead of schedule and wanted to surprise Diane with takeout from her favorite Thai restaurant. When I walked into her apartment, she was sitting on the couch typing rapidly on her phone. The moment she heard the door open, she shut off her screen and looked up at me with wide eyes. I asked her who she was texting. She said it was just her colleague. Something about the project deadline. I felt this uncomfortable twist in my stomach, but I did not push it. I did not want to be that guy, the jealous, controlling boyfriend. So I let it go. 3 weeks ago, everything came crashing down. I was at my apartment on a Tuesday afternoon when I received a text from an unknown number. No words, just a photo. I opened it, and my heart stopped. It was Diane. She was at a bar sitting close to a man I did not recognize, and they were kissing. Not a friendly peck on the cheek. A real, intimate kiss. My hand started shaking. I tried calling Diane immediately, but she did not pick up. I called 3 more times. Nothing. I got in my car and drove to her apartment. It was a 20-minute drive, but it felt like hours. When I arrived, I saw a car parked in front of her building that I did not recognize. A silver sedan. I sat in my car across the street and waited. 2 hours passed. It was almost 11 at night when I finally saw someone leave her building. A man. Tall, dark hair, wearing a leather jacket. And then it hit me. I knew who he was. Marcus. Diane's ex-boyfriend. From 5 years ago. She had told me about him early in our relationship. They had dated for 2 years, before things ended badly. She said she had not spoken to him since. I got out of my car and walked up to her apartment. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I knocked on the door. Diane opened it, and the look on her face told me everything I needed to know. Her eyes were red. Her face was pale. She knew I knew. I asked her what was going on. She started crying. She told me that Marcus had reached out to her 2 months ago. He said he had made mistakes, that he wanted to talk. She agreed to meet him for coffee just to get closure, she said. But one coffee turned into two. Then dinners. Then more. She admitted they had been seeing each other for the past 2 months. She said she was confused. She said she still had feelings for him. She said she did not know what she wanted anymore. I just stood there staring at her. I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath my feet. I asked her if she loved him. She did not answer. That silence was louder than any words she could have said. I turned around and walked out. I got in my car and drove home. I do not even remember the drive. I just remember sitting in my living room in the dark, wondering how everything I thought I knew had turned out to be a lie. A week later, Diane called me. I almost did not pick up, but something made me answer. Her voice was shaky. She said she needed to tell me something important. She said she was pregnant, 3 weeks along, and she said the baby was mine. I felt like I had been punched in the chest. We had always been careful, but I guess nothing is ever 100%. I did not know what to say. Part of me wanted to hang up. Part of me wanted to scream, but instead I just asked her what she wanted to do. She said she was scared. She said she did not know. She said she wanted to keep the baby. And then she said she needed me. I told her I needed time to think. I told her we would talk in 2 days. She agreed. When I hung up, I sat on my couch for hours, staring at the wall. How could this be happening? She had cheated on me, broken my heart, and now she was pregnant and saying it was mine. I did not know if I could trust her. But if the baby really was mine, I could not just walk away. 2 days later, we met at a quiet coffee shop on the east side of town. It was a Sunday afternoon. Diane looked exhausted. She sat down across from me and immediately started talking about the baby. She said she wanted to keep it. She said she hoped we could work things out. I told her I needed time to figure out if I could continue our relationship after what she had done. I told her I would support the baby financially and be there as a father. But I was not ready to jump back into being engaged. Her face changed. The sadness turned into something else. Anger. She leaned forward and said that if I did not get back together with her, she would tell my family the truth. I asked her, what truth? She just stared at me with cold eyes and said, "They will believe me, not you." I did not understand what she meant. I left that coffee shop feeling more confused and anxious than ever. 2 days later, my mother called me. Her name is Patricia, and she is 60 years old. She has always been kind and supportive, but the moment I heard her voice on the phone, I knew something was wrong. Her tone was ice cold. She asked me why I had been treating Diane so terribly. I was shocked. I asked her what she was talking about. She said Diane had come to their house that morning. She had been crying. She told my mother that I had been emotionally abusing her for months. She said I controlled her life, that I did not let her see her friends. She said when she tried to leave me, I threatened her. I could not believe what I was hearing. I told my mother that none of that was true. I told her Diane had cheated on me with her ex. My mother cut me off. She said Diane had shown her text messages and emails as proof. She said she had seen everything with her own eyes. I begged her to let me see those messages, to let me explain. But she would not listen. She told me I was not welcome at home until I apologized to Diane and took responsibility for my actions. Then she hung up. I sat there with my phone in my hand, completely numb. My own mother did not believe me. She believed Diane, a woman who had lied to me, cheated on me, and was now making up stories to destroy my life. 3 days later, there was a loud banging on my apartment door. It was almost 9 at night. I opened the door and my father and 2 brothers were standing there. My father Harold is 65. My oldest brother Dylan is 36. My other brother Nathan is 34. The moment I saw their faces, I knew this was not going to be a calm conversation. Dylan pushed past me into the apartment. He grabbed my shirt and shoved me against the wall. Nathan was right behind him, yelling at me. He shouted, "How could you do that to her?" I tried to tell them it was not true that Diane was lying, but they were not listening. Harold stood near the doorway, his face hard as stone. He said I was a disgrace to the family. Dylan pulled his fist back and punched me in the stomach. I doubled over, gasping for air. Nathan stepped on my hand as I fell to the floor. He said I was lucky they were not doing worse. Harold looked down at me and said that from that moment on, I was no longer his son. I was not allowed at family gatherings. I was not allowed to call. I was nothing to them. Then they left. They just walked out and left me lying on my apartment floor, bruised and broken both physically and emotionally. I lay on that floor for 2 hours. My stomach ached. My hand throbbed. But the physical pain was nothing compared to what I felt inside. My own family had turned on me. They believed her lies without even giving me a chance to defend myself. I thought about giving up. I thought about just disappearing. But then something inside me clicked. If I did not fight back, my life was over. Diane would win. The lies would become the truth, and I would lose everything. I sat up and started thinking. Diane said the baby was 3 weeks along, but we had broken up more than 2 weeks ago. The timeline did not make sense. If she was 3 weeks pregnant now, that meant she got pregnant before we even had that confrontation, which meant the baby could not be mine. It had to be Marcus's. Then I remembered the text message, the unknown number that had sent me the photo of Diane and Marcus at the bar. I pulled out my phone and found the number. I called it. A woman answered. Her voice was cautious. I told her who I was. There was silence on the other end for a moment. Then she said her name was Jessica. She was a friend of Marcus. She said she had sent me that photo because she thought I deserved to know the truth. I asked her if we could meet. She agreed. The next day we met at a coffee shop downtown. Jessica was in her late 20s, with short brown hair and a nervous energy about her. She told me that Marcus had been bragging to her about getting back together with Diane. He had told Jessica that Diane was pregnant with his baby, not mine. Jessica said Marcus and Diane had been planning this whole thing. They were going to make me believe the baby was mine so that I would support them financially. Diane knew my family had money. My father owns a chain of hardware stores across Oregon. They thought they could trap me. I felt sick, but I also felt a surge of anger. Jessica pulled out her phone and showed me text messages between Marcus and Diane. She had access to his phone because they shared a cloud account. The messages were damning. Diane and Marcus talked about how they needed money to raise the baby. They talked about how they would make me think it was mine. There were even messages where Diane explained how she had faked text messages and emails to make it look like I had been abusing her. She had edited screenshots, changed names, created fake conversations. It was all a lie. Every single piece of evidence she had shown my family was fabricated. I took photos of everything. Jessica also agreed to record a video statement, explaining how she got the messages, and confirming that Marcus had admitted the baby was his. She said she felt guilty for not coming forward sooner. She said she was scared of Marcus, but she could not let an innocent person suffer. With all this evidence in hand, I made a decision. I was going to confront everyone. My family, Diane, all of them. I sent a group text to my father, mother, and brothers. I told them I needed to have a family meeting. I said it was urgent. At first they refused. My mother texted back saying I was not welcome. But I replied that if they did not show up, I would take everything to a lawyer and let the legal system handle it. That got their attention. They agreed to meet at my parents' house on Saturday evening. I also texted Diane. I told her she needed to be there too. She asked why. I just said you will see. She agreed, probably thinking she still had the upper hand. Saturday came. I drove to my parents' house with my laptop and a USB drive full of evidence. My stomach was in knots. When I walked in, everyone was already there. My mother sat on the couch. My father stood near the fireplace. Dylan and Nathan were leaning against the wall, and Diane was sitting next to my mother looking calm and confident. She probably thought I was going to apologize. I set my laptop on the coffee table and connected it to the TV. Nobody said anything. I took a deep breath and said I had something to show them. I opened the folder with the text messages between Diane and Marcus. I projected them onto the big screen. One by one, the messages appeared. Plans to trap me. Discussions about money. Diane admitting the baby was Marcus's. Conversations about how to fake evidence against me. The room went silent. My mother's face turned pale. My father's jaw clenched. Dylan and Nathan just stared at the screen. Diane's confidence shattered. Her face went white. She started stammering, saying the messages were fake, that I had made them up. But then I played the video of Jessica. Jessica explained everything on camera. She showed her face, stated her full name, and confirmed that Marcus had told her the baby was his. She explained how Diane and Marcus had planned everything. Diane tried to speak, but no words came out. She started crying, saying she did it because she was desperate. She said Marcus had left her, and she did not know what else to do. My father stood up and looked at her. He asked, "Is the baby?" Even his Diane did not answer at first. Then quietly, she admitted the baby was Marcus's. My mother broke down. She stood up and walked over to me. And for LibriVox.org, this is, my mother broke down. She wrapped her arms around me and sobbed into my shoulder. She kept saying she was sorry. She said she should have believed me. She said she was a terrible mother. Dylan and Nathan stood there looking at the floor. They could not even look me in the eye. Harold walked over to Diane and told her to leave. She tried to say something, but he cut her off. He said, "Get out of my house. Now." Diane grabbed her purse and ran out the door, still crying. The week after that confrontation, my phone did not stop ringing. My mother came to my apartment almost every day with home-cooked meals. She cried every time she saw me. She kept apologizing, saying she should have trusted her own son. She said she let her emotions cloud her judgment, and she would never forgive herself for what she had done. My father wrote me a letter. It was 3 pages long. In it, he admitted he had failed me. He said he should have listened, should have asked questions, should have given me the benefit of the doubt. He said he was ashamed of himself. He asked if I could ever forgive him. Dylan and Nathan invited me out for drinks. We sat at a bar on the waterfront, and they both apologized. Dylan said he let his anger take over. He said he should have been there for me as a brother, not as someone ready to attack. Nathan admitted he had been wrong to put his hands on me. He said there was no excuse for what he did. They both said they wanted to rebuild our relationship. As for Diane, I heard she left Portland. Someone told me she went back to her hometown in Montana with Marcus. I do not know what happened to them after that, and honestly, I do not care. She made her choices, and she has to live with them. My family wanted everything to go back to normal immediately. They wanted me to come to Sunday dinners to laugh and pretend nothing had happened, but I was not ready for that. I needed time. I needed space. So I started seeing a therapist. I needed help processing everything. The betrayal, the violence, the fact that the people who were supposed to protect me had turned on me so easily. I also spent time alone. I took long drives up to Mount Hood on weekends. I hiked trails I had not walked in years. I started painting again. something I had loved as a kid but had stopped doing as an adult. I needed to reconnect with myself. I needed to remember who I was before all of this happened. Slowly, over the next few months, I began opening up to my family again, but I set boundaries. I told my parents that if they ever doubted me in the future, I needed them to come to me first. I needed them to trust me. I told Dylan and Nathan that violence was never the answer, no matter how angry they felt. They all agreed. They said they understood. 3 months after everything happened, I finally felt like I could breathe again. The pain was still there. I do not think it will ever fully go away. But the bitterness started to fade. I realized that holding on to anger was only hurting me. My family had made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. But they were trying to make amends. And I had to decide if I was going to let those mistakes define the rest of our relationships or if I was going to try to move forward. I chose to move forward. Not because I forgot what happened, but because I realized that forgiveness is not about them. It is about me. It is about letting go of the weight I had been carrying. It is about choosing peace over resentment. Looking back now, I understand something important. Sometimes people believe lies because they want to believe them. It is easier to accept a simple story than to dig for the complicated truth. But the truth always comes out eventually. It might take time. It might take effort. But it will rise to the surface. And when it does, you have to be strong enough to stand by it, even when the whole world turns against you. I learned that family can hurt you in ways no one else can, but they can also heal you if you let them. I learned that trust, once broken, takes years to rebuild. But it is possible if both sides are willing to do the work. And most importantly, I learned that the hardest battles are not the ones we fight with others. They are the ones we fight within ourselves. The battle to hold on to our truth when everyone else has let go. The battle to stay true to who we are, even when the whole world turns its back. I am not in a new relationship. I am not ready for that yet. Maybe one day I will be. But right now, I am focused on myself, on my work, on my hobbies, on rebuilding my life piece by piece. And you know what? I am okay with that. Because at the end of the day, you are the one who has to live with yourself. And I can finally say, I am at peace with the man I see in the mirror. So, let me ask you this. Have you ever been in a situation where you were wrongly accused, where people you loved turned against you? How did you handle it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to hear your stories. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Share this with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes knowing you are not alone makes all the difference. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that no matter how dark things get, the truth always finds a way. Stay strong, stay true to yourself, and remember you are worth fighting for. Take care.